Hello everyone, this is Elisha and welcome to another gig vlog. So this gig vlog is pretty in between because I can't really disclose too much information regarding this project. What I'd really like to share is just the amazing experience of finally being able to perform live in front of a physical audience for almost 2 years. It also got me into this swing of using Ableton for a live performance, which is always a treat. So to put things into context and to not spoil too much of the content of the project, it was essentially a live musical performance consisting of singers and musicians. Specifically, there were 2 musicians, me, myself, and another guitarist. In context of the songs and the production itself, realistically, having more than 2 musicians would have been better, but unfortunately, we only have 4 hands and I guess 4 legs to work around with. And this is where Ableton comes in. I was looking for a more streamlined way of being able to play my instruments, all the different patches and all the different sounds, alongside the backing tracks that I prepared. And I wanted all of these things to be in one nice package where I could see everything, I could access, I don't have to turn too much and handle too many things in too many windows at any given time. I could do whatever I want in one window, specifically in Ableton's session view, because the nature of the performance requires a lot of quick switches, being able to trigger, activate, stop certain actions in the backing track and the instruments that I were playing. With Ableton, I could do whatever I want in one window without having to frantically browse multiple windows, because this particular project required a lot of quick cuts, quick actions, and on-the-fly decisions. The parameters and the options are there for me to play around with, which is always useful because sometimes on-the-fly tweaks are required, not just during the performance itself, but also during rehearsals, because usually during rehearsals, whatever you have on paper before that isn't necessarily 100% workable. So for example, if I have a certain sound or a certain part of the song that needs a bit of a tweaking, I don't have to go back to my studio to tweak it and have it prepared for the next session. With Ableton, I can just do those quick fixes in the DAW and we can just move on with the rehearsals fast. So all in all, it really saves a lot of time for everyone. So let's move on to the session view. Okay, so here you guys are looking at the actual session that I used for the project. To be honest, it's quite a simple session and the project itself didn't really require a lot of demanding magic work out of Ableton. But regardless, Ableton really did help me quite a lot with the performance. I have everything in this one window and I don't really have to switch to whichever window for whichever purpose. So if you look at here, these are all the tracks. There are 5 tracks in total. The first 3 tracks were the instruments that I used to play live. The 4th track is a dedicated channel for the guitarist. This last one is a track that's dedicated to the backing tracks for some of the songs. And over here is the master track. This session makes it easy for me to kind of find the things that I want for a particular moment in the performance. Over here, depending on whatever you highlight in the session, it'll give you a lot of information regarding whatever that's in that clip. And this for me is very useful because the performance itself was a bit tricky to work around with in terms of sound, because one, the singers weren't mic'd up because we didn't have mics at that time. So we ran through the trouble of having issues where can't hear the singers, sometimes singers can't hear the backing track, sometimes the backing track was a bit too loud for the listeners. So it was quite a tricky thing to work around. But of course, nothing's perfect. Given the situation, it's almost impossible to get a really good sound out of it. But what I have here in Ableton is, rather than trying to manually control the master volume, in Ableton, if you highlight a clip, you have access to this gain fader. So what I did for the performance was, for example, song 1, the song was okay, so I didn't touch the gain fader. But for song 2, it was a bit too loud, so I had to put it down here. As you can see, it's at -4 dB, and the rest of the song is at -8 dB, and this song is in -5, and this one is in -2. This was a gradual change, so it makes it super useful, because probably during the final rehearsal it might be perceived as a bit too loud, for example this song, and maybe for the last rundown on the last day there's a different perception, then we had to change it on the go. So rather than going to another session and bouncing a track with the new loudness, I can just adjust the loudness here. So this one was pretty cool. The rest of the magic actually comes from this friend here, the M Audio Oxygen Pro 61. The cool thing about this MIDI controller is it's integrated with Ableton almost automatically. All of these buttons, faders, and knobs are assigned to something in Ableton. Like for example, in this project, it was crucial for me to kind of change instruments on the fly, because one section of the song might require a piano, another section of the instrument might require some strings, and another section of the instrument might require both. So with this one, as you can see, these buttons are the assigned arm buttons in Ableton. So for example, if I play something here, nothing comes up because nothing is arm. But if I press this one, it lights up, and as you can see in the Ableton session, the arm button here lights up as well. When I press something on the MIDI controller, the sound comes up. That one's pretty cool. And then same thing, switch it off, and then I arm the strings track. Comes up. Of course, the organ comes up. Now the cool thing about this, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I might need to play 2 instruments or 2 sounds simultaneously, so I can actually arm more than one track. So this one is a pretty cool feature. So I can also, if needed, sometimes on the fly, if something's a bit too loud, these faders correspond to the faders in Ableton. So if I turn this down, it'll turn the fader in Ableton down as well. So probably maybe the piano might be a bit too loud. Can turn it down, make it softer. So that one is a pretty cool feature as well. Another cool feature is actually these pads. So again, these pads correspond to whatever you see in Ableton. The 5th pad here corresponds to this clip. That's why it's colored different from the other clips, because there's something in that section already. So like for example, I'm playing a song, and if I want to trigger a clip, I can just press this one and then it'll trigger that audio to play. So that one is pretty cool. Again, if I'm playing something, for example, pretty useful when you have everything you need right in front of your face. So another cool feature that I used in Ableton for this performance, if you notice, there's song to vamp and then song to continue, I guess. But the reason why I did this is because one of the songs actually have this dialogue in between. So I had to figure out how I can give the singer all the time she needs for the dialogue before I can trigger the rest of the songs to come in. So for example, I'll trigger this one. So this VAM will continue on until the singer is done with the dialogue before we move on to the next section of the song. So essentially, I don't have to manually play a clip again and again because this clip will keep looping until I trigger the next part of the song, which is that clip, song 2, continue 2. And then we'll go on with the rest of the songs. So these are just some of the things that's super useful that Ableton helped me with the performance. And I do believe that it kind of gives me an edge over just playing the piano or playing the piano while playing the backing track from another source. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a weird vlog. I guess it's more of a tutorial because I, again, can't really disclose too much regarding the performances. Above everything else, I'm just really thankful that I had the opportunity to perform physically again in front of a live audience. It's something that cannot be replaced from just live streaming, which is pretty popular nowadays. But yeah, nothing beats that experience, and hopefully we can have more opportunities to actually do something like this in the near future.